Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. So today's video is again part of the truck build project series, and today we're going to go over Onboard Air. Now I will tell you that Onboard Air is expensive, and just the tank and the compressor kit that you get, if you get a whole kit, like, you can expect that you're going to spend more money if you want to like customize it at least, and a lot of it does come with enough for like a bare bones system. But we did go with the Air system. It's black in color, so it's like their stealth mode, and it's got the compressor, it's got a 2-gallon air tank. I actually ordered a 1-gallon tank and just like some odds and ends first, because I was going to cheap out and not do the compressor, because I thought, well, I got this awesome 12-volt tire minder compressor and it's pretty much the same thing. I was just going to alter it and mount it down there, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it because it probably would have messed it up where it wouldn't work as it originally intended again, and it probably wouldn't last that long being mounted up under the truck. So it's not made for that, and I understand that. So I did just break down and I ordered a Air kit. Now the Air kit that I got, I didn't notice at first, but it's a 200 PSI kit, which is a little excessive. Most people aren't going to need more than like 100 PSI. And so I also got an air horn, because this is one of those projects you start, well, if I got an air compressor, then maybe I should just throw some airbags on. I've never really needed airbags, but if I got air on the truck, then airbags make sense. And if I'm doing airbags and I got the air and I got some lines to air up my tires and stuff, then why not add one more circuit for a big old honk. So I did end up putting a very large Horn Blasters air horn on the cargo rack on top, and I've been really happy with that. Now the big issue with the air compressor setup on your truck to start with is you got to figure out where you're going to mount it. A lot of people do mount it in the bed. A lot of people mount it in like the toolbox in the bed, but there's issues there. So the issues is, to me, is I didn't want to take up space that I could be using for something else. So I did want to mount it to the frame, and I've saw plenty of videos where people do that. Now on my Ram, it's a crew cab, it's a short bed. I don't think you'd have as big of an issue if you did a long bed, but with short bed, there's not much empty frame space there that's not got something right beside it. So I decided to do something a little different, and I'm going to tell you right now that I will never publicly admit where my air compressor system's mounted, so don't ask me. And this is going to be a strange video because I usually walk you through step by step of how we did it. So this is just going to be a general overview of the system itself, okay? Now, number one, whenever I put the airbags in, it said just use the dried up air sealant that comes on there and screw those down in there, and that'll make a seal. Don't do that. That was crap. Had one leak as soon as I put everything together, and I had to take the whole airbag back off to do it. And that brings me to my next point of, I tried to do everything what I would consider the best way, and everything says the best way to seal fittings is to use pipe dope. But number one, it gets everywhere, and number two, after driving it 1,000 miles, like almost every one of my fittings leaked. So I've went through and I've resealed most of them. Now that being said, the only leaks that I have at this current point in time are my airbags, and it's that same fitting, and it's on both sides this time. So I have to tear the airbags off. When to do that, I got to take the wheels off, I got to jack the rear end up, I got to take the airbags off, and the biggest pain of that is the bolts that hold the bags in place. They're like this long past the bracket, and you have to take that bolt all the way off, and it doesn't unscrew easily. So you're there with a ratchet for like 30 minutes undoing bolts, and then like, and I'm sure it's not 30 minutes, but it feels like it, and then like feels like 30 more minutes like tightening them back on when you get done. So that's why I hadn't got around to it yet. So the next thing for me is that I wanted to be able to have a cutoff, because I have a friend that has Onboard Air, and he said, you know, there can be an issue sometimes because he had a line mess up and then he couldn't air his bags up. So he recommended some cutoffs. So I actually did install a manifold, And the manifold has 3 different cutoffs, or 4 different cutoffs. It's got a 1/2-inch cutoff on the end because the air horn asked for a 1/2-inch line, and then it's got 3 1/4-inch cutoffs. One of those cutoffs goes to a line that goes to the front bumper for air chuck, one goes to the rear bumper for air chuck, and one goes to the front dash. Now it goes to the front dash by going under the truck into the engine bay and then back to the dash. Now on the way to the dash there is a pressure sensor, an air pressure sensor. And then after it gets to the dash, it goes to a paddle switch, and that paddle switch, I can push it up or down to change the pressure of the airbags. And then there's an air line that comes out of the paddle switch, and it goes back up to the same area where the airline ran in. And there's another pressure sensor there, and that pressure sensor senses the pressure of the airbag. So the first one that goes to the paddle switch senses the pressure of the whole system, because that should be equalized, and the pressure sensor going out is only the line that goes to the airbags. And that's the way that the air is plumbed through the whole truck. Now I will say that the way that I ended up doing this, which I got some advice from my same friend, so the way that I wired it was I used this, it was called a pod of some type. I'll put the link up here, I got it on Amazon. But number one, you got to find somewhere to mount all these gauges and everything if you're going to add that stuff. So this goes in the air vent on the left side of the steering wheel, right by the driver. So you pop out the factory air vent, you install your gauge in there, which I have a color gauge. You can push a button, it can be backlit in like 8 different colors. And then it's got 2 needles. It's got a red needle and a green needle. And one of those needles shows, essentially they just show the pressure of those 2 air sensors. And so one shows you the pressure of the whole system, and one shows you the pressure of the bags. And I really like that system, and it seems to be working very well. And it wasn't too hard to install. There's lots of wires, because you got wires that go to those air sensors. You got a wire that goes to the running lights, so whenever you turn on the running lights, then the gauge dims. I did attach that running light to the running lights that I have on the aux beam. So again, I didn't tie into the truck's electrical harness at all. Then with that gauge, I think, if I remember right, you had to have a main power that was constant, one that was turned off, on and off with the truck, and then ground, of course, too. So the way that I got all those wires in and out in the airlines too is in the rams. I got a 4th generation 2500, and in the rams there's this plastic panel that goes through the firewall, and a lot of people drill that out and run all the wires through there, and that's what I ended up doing. You know, it's just plastic there, so I'm not too worried about wear or anything, but I did wrap all that whole set of wires with plenty of electrical tape to add as kind of a bushing there, and then I went around it with spray foam to seal it back up as well, because I had the hole a little bit bigger, because I was pushing lots of stuff through. With the aux beam panel and the wiring for that, you only have to, you know, have the one wire coming in. But I had these wires that had to come in for this air gauge, and then I had the wires coming in for the factory wiring harnesses of the Harbor Freight edge lights. And with those, I actually mounted the paddle switch and those 2 lights in like a 3-switch opening, and mounted that in the dash by my left knee. Occasionally I'll notice that I accidentally, I think it's when I get in and out of the truck, I'll hit it with my knee and those lights will be on. But I hadn't had an issue where I've missed them and they drained my battery or anything, because it's pretty obvious, because they're bright as hell, I'll just tell you. So I almost got all of my kinks worked out with the air system there. Oh, and on top of the air plumbing, you also have to have some electrical stuff. So what I did, number one, I plugged most of those holes in the air tank because everything went over to the manifold that split it out to different lines. But my horn blaster's horn, they said that it had a maximum 150 PSI and I had a 200 PSI system. So I didn't want anything to happen there. So I did change the switch, the on-off switch it's a pressure switch that goes into the tank, and it senses if it gets down below like 125 and turns on, and then it turns off if it hits 150, so it doesn't go over 150. And the way that I wired that was a little unconventional because, you know, you do have to use relays and stuff, and there's relays built into the aux beam panel. So what I did is I ran a ground just to the frame, and then I ran a positive wire. It was the one that came with the air compressor, so I think it was like 10 gauge or something, because those pull quite a bit of power. And I ran that power wire from the aux beam panel down to the pressure switch that's on the tank, and then the pressure switch has another prong with a hot wire that comes off of that, and that hot wire goes to the compressor. So if I turn the air compressor on, then that arms the system, and then if the pressure switch in the tank senses it's less than like 120, 125, it turns the compressor on, and then it fills up and then it turns off. So it's a pretty simple system, and it seemed to actually be a lot more simple than all the relays and stuff that people usually have to add on, and the relay that came with it as well. So guys, really that's all there is about my air compressor system. I've been really happy with it. It's really nice just to be able to pull up somebody like my mom's house and one of her tires is low. I already got everything aired up in the truck. I just hook a line to there, put an air chuck on there, add a little bit of air to the tire. Don't even have to drag out a compressor or anything. I mean, it is a first world issue with all the air leaks and stuff, but I about got that nipped in the bud, so I think we're good to go on that. But thanks guys for watching this video. Please tune in for the next video, and we'll show you what we're up to then. Thanks for being part of the family.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.